Hello, it's a rainy Wednesday. Welcome to What Are You Saying? #ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Usayome Sally, and as you can tell, I'm alone in the studio, but I'm not alone because I have Uti joining me via Zoom. Hi, Uti Elu.
Hi, Ua. Good evening.
Good
I hope you
evening.
can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear.
The rains of Lagos have rained today.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
all,
Lagos,
all I can say is it is well.
you know how they were yabbing people on the island, Lekki people, this can never happen on the mainland.
Today, the mainland, everything happened today.
everything, everything
Everything
happened.
happened today.
I tell you.
But it's
But
been, I woke up this morning, I started to hear the stories. I started to see the videos, rather. We started with videos. We
mm,
started to see the videos of the flooding. I think the first one I saw was Third Mainland Bridge, and from there it was just videos upon videos. And I thought to myself, I don't want to voice out the negative about where Lagos is with these floods and these rains, because I remember taking this story a few months ago when Lagos State was warning about the level of rains we were going to get this year, and here we are.
mm.
It is the rains are raining.
The rain is raining,
The,
no.
the roads, the floods are flooding. It's
Wow.
just amazing. What people have had to go through. I went through it last week, last Tuesday. So today, when my son, because I think it started raining, at least that I became aware of, I think it started raining at about 2 a.m. in the morning. So I had to tell my son, right,
Mm.
when he came to say good morning, I almost wanted to say, you won't go to school today. And then I remembered he had exams. So I had to swallow it and say, okay, you don't have a choice. You have to go to school. Oh, of course, he was excited to be going to school. But me, I knew what was waiting on the other side. So I had to call his school and say, please, there's nothing they're doing in school. The minute they finish with their exams, please put the school bus on the road and let them come home. Because the minute rush hour traffic adds into this, it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And it still took them 2 hours to get home, even though they left around noon. It
Mm.
still took them 2 hours.
Wow. Interesting. I mean, we're going to talk more on the flooding, because that's all our what's in the news, different buzzwords happening, but if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, that Official Upgrade TV, yeah, we have interesting contents there. Don't just watch only on TV. Go on our YouTube channel and subscribe, and of course, share. Don't be stingy. Share the links. All right, so tonight we're having a conversation centered around empowering Nigerians living with disabilities. And here's what we found as today's quote. It says, inclusion is not bringing people into what already exists, it's making a new space, a better space for everyone. That's from Judge Diai. Now, so when we open our phone lines, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this conversation around people living with disabilities. Maybe you know anyone around you, or you are someone living with disabilities. And we have a guest, joining us. I mean, she's also someone living with disability, and would love to hear her story as well. But first, let's run off on a break. When we come back from that break, we want to see what we found in today's news. Hi, thanks for staying with us now. International Plastic Bag Free Day is a day that is celebrated or is observed on the 3rd of July. Each year, it raises global awareness about the environmental impact of plastic bags and and advocates for reducing their use. It encourages individuals, communities, businesses, and government to embrace eco-friendly alternatives and practices to minimize plastic pollution. Now, the day serves as a call to action to protect our planet's ecosystems, wildlife, and natural resources by promoting sustainable behaviors and policies that prioritize environmental conservation. The theme for this year, Plastic Bag Free Day, is towards a plastic free future, empowering communities for sustainable change. Yeah, I remember my trip to, I mean, I don't know about any other country, but France, they take this thing very seriously. They are very, very serious about plastic reduction and plastic-free future. So when you go to malls, you go to supermarkets and all of that in France, you don't find a plastic bag. So it's so shocking that, the US is still having to deal with a lot of plastic bags. But here in Nigeria, I mean, I think, was it you that shared that story about how they discovered the xylophones that had been banned in a warehouse? Was it you or Messi? I can't remember who shared that story on the
No, I
group.
think it wasn't me. No, no, no. The
Yeah,
one that we had talked about was it was the bags from America ending up somewhere in Asia.
yeah.
That's the one that I talked about. But I mean, in Nigeria today, I think about it all the time. We've gone from the single-use plastic problem in Nigeria is almost at epidemic levels. Because if you just even take the food industry, right? Um, Go and buy food in a fast food place. If you buy snacks, if you buy food, by the time you're leaving with a whole trove of plastic. They've put your snacks in individual bags, then they've put it in a bigger carrier bag, then they've put the single-use plastics. Like we literally now have an explosion of this. And we already had, I mean, we don't recycling is a problem, right? So we have it in a less formal sector in terms of the way we handle it here. So we are not anywhere near the place where you can even get regulation today that says don't use plastic bags. Because there are other countries, I think Kenya, if I remember correctly, in Africa, where they use jute bags. They don't use any single-use plastic carrier bags anymore. I remember I was still in the UK when they started charging 10p for bags, right? So that's where we are today. Everybody's moving away from plastic because I mean it's so bad for the environment, right? We need to go back to. I remember as children when you were going to go and buy something. Remember then if we're still using the glass bottles for soft drinks. When guests come, you want to go, they will give you a basket. We all had these cute little plastic baskets we used to carry then, or the
You.
what's it called? Those raffia baskets, like the ones they use for Christmas hampers. And you put your bottles inside and you go and buy
If
what
you
you
don't
need
have
and come
bottles,
back. And you need to take
you
those
leave
kind
your
of baskets
change.
to the market. Not anymore, right? Not anymore.
Yeah, if you
So,
don't have
but
bottles,
our road is far.
yeah, if you don't have bottles, you leave your change with the person. So when you return their bottle, they give you back your
Exactly.
change.
When
So
you
you
bring the
pick which
bottles
one.
back. But now everything is all plastic. And
All
that is
plastic.
contributing to the problem.
It's so bad. I saw a post that Ali Baba had posted on his page, and he put, it was a clogged drainage with heavy, like it was heavily littered with plastics. And he said our government is bad, like being sarcastic, that it is the government that dumped all this plastic here. Right. I mean, it then leads us to this conversation. I think it just ties up nicely to what's in the news today, because we have a generic what's in the news, and it's the flooding in Lagos, right? I mean, it's no news that it rained so heavily today from the early hours of the morning. It's been raining in Lagos, and everywhere. Most places were really, really what's it called, flooded, and it's just so many things that happened all in one. At some point, there were area boys, miscreants, extorting people, charging them that they must pay 100 naira before they cross a particular bridge. The Lagos
There was
State
100 naira to cross. There was 200 naira to be carried on
so
their
there's the
backs.
200 naira to help carry you on their back to cross you. But the one that you want to cross by yourself, they are charging you 100 naira.
They're charging
But I
100
hear that
naira
the
because
Lagos State government has arrested those miscreants. Secondly, there was another picture. Somebody took a picture of a guy and a girl dumping the big drums, the big blue
trash,
waste drum, dumping it into the what's it called, into the water to flow. Like, where do these people think this thing is going to flow into? I am so happy that the commissioner, I think the commissioner tagged the Loma person, and they have I think they've sealed their building, because I saw an update that the Lagos State government has sealed their building. We need to have sense in this country. Like, we need to have sense. Like, how do you know that these things actually, they don't go nowhere, and this is the reason? And apart from all of these things, there's also the madness of impatience within the traffic that then just completely blocks everywhere. But I mean, did you see the video of the gubernatorial candidate for Labour Party, Gbadebo Rose-Vivour, trending on social media today, and how he just became like a prophet? How he said something around what's it called, landfills and all of that, and how that would impact flooding on the mainland. Right? It was almost like whatever he said at that gubernatorial debate, is what is playing out now. So let me hear your thoughts on generally what you think about the flooding situation within Lagos.
Well, so I think first and foremost for me, I always say this, people build houses today and they dig trenches. I don't like to call them gutters. You dig trenches in front of the house, you cast it, and you say you've done drainage, but the water is not going anywhere. So how is that drainage, right? So there are parts of Lekki, popular streets on Lekki. In fact, the street where you have the palace, I think that's the Elegushi, yes, palace. That whole area, it floods. When I mean floods, I mean it's like literally put your boat or your raft on here and just paddle your way around. And all of these things, to my mind, I often say, Lekki is in the middle of water. Water to your right, water to your left. How is it that we haven't figured out drainage? But this really is a town planning problem. At one time, our universities town planning was a course. We were cranking out town planners. Where are they? How have we leveraged them? The problem with Lagos is like when you say you don't cast, right? We have blocked the waterways. We have filled in the routes where water should flow out. The creeks, the canals, all of these things have been filled in, all in the name of development. And here we are now. Fela that sang water, it will find its way. There's no going around it. It will find its way. So we are now suffering because we haven't planned for drainage.
At all.
I was saying today that where I live, right, the drainage here is connected and the water flows out. So because it was obviously sand-filled, it was swampy land that was sand-filled. When it rains, we get groundwater. Water comes out from the ground, right? As soon as it stops raining, the water sinks back in. But the drainage has actually flowed. The water has actually flowed out and the drains are empty. So the drains are cleaned, it's empty. That is literally when I was driving to work yesterday, I said, what is going to have to happen in the immediate, right, is that neighborhoods are going to have to start coming together and calling all these sewage trucks to come and pump out water. The ones who are close enough to a creek or a canal, you will have to put in some sort of piping structure with pumps so that the minute it starts to rain, you can manage your water. I have a colleague who has had to sell her house because of this, because their house is on a bend. So water coming from the left, water coming from the right. Every time it rains, their house floods. Not compound, house.
My God. You know what?
We are no longer in. Yeah, because to solve this problem now, right, you are going to have to do a lot of work. You're going to have to break houses. You're going to have to unfill places that have been filled. So now we need plan B.
Serious plan B. And I think here would be a good time if the government is actually maybe bereft of, what's it called, ideas. I mean, based on other people. I mean, we have architects, we have people with, you can actually just bring in people to say, come and help me out with this thing, because it's a big issue. Like, people could not go to work. So many things just happened. So many things went wrong. Now, all those cars inside that water, it's only God that will save the cars after they come out of that water. There's just too many things layered on this one thing. But we'll see how it goes. We'll continue to monitor it. I'm just hoping that, please, if you don't have any business going now, just stay where you are. I think that's just the best thing to do. All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back from that break, let's discuss how we can make people living with disabilities in Nigeria a lot more comfortable. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges.
With the growing youth population and very little engagement.
That is a ticking time bomb.
We're blessed people with a diverse culture who have a lot to say.
And yes, we are talking.
It is important we drive conversations that informs, inspires, and influences thoughts and actions.
If we say there is beauty in diversity, then Let us embrace our diverse culture.
We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation.
As we are the hope for the future.
Yesterday's conversation shaped today.
What are you saying to shape your tomorrow?
We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Thanks for staying with us now. Segregation against people with disabilities in Nigeria has historically been a significant issue, often manifesting in exclusion from education, employment opportunities, public spaces, and social interactions, despite legislative effort to promote inclusivity, such as Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act of 2018. Societal attitudes and infrastructure remain significant barriers. Now, every July 2nd is a special Recreation for the Disabled Day, and is celebrated every year by acknowledging the importance of recreational activities in the lives of individuals with disabilities. Now, this exclusion not only limits their access to essential services, but also perpetuates stereotypes and undermines their rights to full participation in society. So recall the story of Adebola Daniel, the son of Gbenga Daniel, former governor of Ogun State, who was discriminated against at a KFC outlet in Ikeja. So, I mean, it's the only reason that story came out is because he's a prominent person, right? So to join us this evening to have this conversation is an experienced gender and disability inclusion facilitator and the founder of Eagle's Voice, Kemi Odusanya, and she's joined us live from Abuja. Thank you so much, Kemi, for joining us this evening. Okay, Kemi,
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes. Thank you. You were muted for a second there. So thank you so much again for having this conversation. It was important for us to, bring someone that this is your reality, right? So we're not just talking above the heads of people, people that are living and, they're experiencing some of these challenges that I just read out, on a day-to-day basis. So tell us, you are someone that has visual impairment, right? How has it been like? And has your situation been a situation from birth, or it happened, along the line, so tell us, first of all, the history of how you became visually impaired and how it has been living in Nigeria.
Okay, so thank you once again for having me. And my visual impairment is adaptive. It's acquired rather. So it started from the year 2006, I think March 26th, during the eclipse of the moon. And it was really, yes, I was a child who had sight issues right from, inception, but I wasn't able to use spectacles for a while in my junior school. And this was, definitely maybe due to ignorance or lack of information, because, those close to me then were saying, oh, I could not use glasses because I was so small. And so by the time I started using glasses, it was like when I was in junior school. And gradually the eye deteriorated. I had about 3 surgeries in my right eye. And so gradually, everything just came out like this. So I've been in the state for like over 15 years, and living in Nigeria as a visually impaired person, I tell you, it's definitely not easy. You were saying something during the first 15 minutes of the program talking about floods, and I was just imagining, there's the reality of persons with disabilities in Nigeria. Absolutely. So imagine a visually impaired person who is working independently with his or her white cane on the road, and in a situation where even when there is no rain, the person is still struggling, as people are selling on the pavement and all that. And in a situation now that the floods have come, marching on the street alone is really, really risky. So living in Nigeria is a double tough for persons with disability. But hey, we keep plowing ahead. We do not give up.
Wow. I like the fact that you were going to link that, to the conversation around the flooding, because I was just going to say that the truth is people that, do not even have any disabilities that they're living with, right? There's a lot of, where is the value for human life in Nigeria? So let's even just keep the conversation around disabilities aside. Like, if you value humanity, if you value human life, right, you would know that certain things have to just be in place, right? That is what I should think that, government should always strive to want to resolve that. Okay, make sure that our roads are good, make sure that we have power sorted, we have proper infrastructure. Then, you can now graduate into the kinds of facilities that would accommodate people, because we are talking about, our code talked about inclusion, right? Making sure that everybody is included.
Yeah.
So if the basic things that even keeps survival and everything in place is not even there, you now talk about a next level, which is people that do not even have, it's not by choice that they are where they are. They don't even, so what would now be their own fate and plight? But let me come to you, Uti. When you hear conversations around people living with disabilities, what comes to your mind, and what question do you have for our guest?
So what comes to my mind first and foremost, education is very powerful. And sadly, the first or the most common experience that a lot of Nigerians have with disabled people is a very negative one. We see them as beggars, we see them as destitute people. So I don't believe that on a large scale that Nigerians even remember that disabled people are human, right? There is a level to which I don't even think it crosses into people's consciousness because of that, right? So for me, what I would like to ask our guest is, in dealing with being disabled, how have you managed, or what kind of perception have you experienced of people, of yourself as a disabled person? Do people acknowledge you? Do they know how to act around you? Do they treat you like a person? Because I think this is even the very basic thing that we must understand. People need to see disabled people as humans, the same as us. And I think I would like to get your perspective as someone who's living through that.
Okay, so firstly, as a person with disability, like you said, people do not regard us as humans. Now, the thing is, to an extent, the foundation is not strong. The Nigeria Foundation is built on more of cultural and religious-centric thing. So where our culture says, oh, a person with disability is someone who begs for harm, which actually happened to me, because when I transited from being sighted to a visually impaired person, I had just 4 things in mind. Like, I'm literally not joking. I had just 4 things. And this was because of my experience. I had beggars in front of my house who would beg for harms and all that. So I thought this was the end. I was looking for someone who pitifully, like, mark that word, pitifully marry me, get pregnant, and die, because I never thought of a life after, being a visually impaired. While I was sighted, I never saw anyone who was educated or a literate person with a disability. So when I came into the space, I was literally like outcast, because I never knew there was life after it. So after, a lot of wailing and all that, then I got rehabilitated, and then I realized that being a visually impaired person, or even a person with a disability, that's not the end of the world. That's just like a beginning to everything. So the perception of people, like, is the first major thing. At times I tell people, when we talk about statistics in Nigeria, we say, oh, we have so amount of people who have died through suicide and all that. Now look into that statistics. How many persons with disabilities do you find? You do not find any. And I tell you that persons with disability are even more vulnerable to suicide cases, because In a society that do not accept you as your disability, that do not take you as human, it gives, rising for suicide case. Someone can easily go kill him or herself, and it leads to that. So there are several cases that, the society has helped to downgrade, persons with disability. Another experience which I had was, while during my NYC primary place of assignment, I was posted to a radio station, a very popular one in Lagos. And as I got in, I felt, oh, those persons are well read, they're traveled, they should be able to, accommodate me. And the person was like, the HR was like, oh, sorry, how would you be able to move around? How would you come to work? And I started, if I was like hot-tempered at that moment, because, hey, imagine a person with disability who has gone around the whole of Lagos looking for PPA because everyone keeps rejecting. And the person like, oh, what's this again? But I had to be patient and educate someone who I feel is educated, well-traveled, that, oh, I can do this, don't worry. And at the end of it all, I convinced them because I had to even manage their social media outlet at a point. So it takes a double, power for persons with disability to really live in Nigeria or even within a community that thinks that, oh, persons, with disabilities are less human. And that's why I always flag that the word is persons with disability, because we are humans first. So you put the humanities first before the disabilities, just like saying, oh, we have a guest who has so skills, and the person is a disability, person with disability, not saying, oh, we have a disabled guest, or we have this, because you are, the word is already negativing that person before you then shoot that the person is maybe a female or a male. So yeah, I face such, and a lot of people face it. And I'm just imagining, we have several kind of impairment or disability. I am just having a visual impairment, or I'm blind because I can't see anything. There are some who has double impairment, deaf blind. Now, in a society of Nigeria, where do you think that they have life? So it's really, really a worrisome thing. But hey, like I said, we keep plowing ahead. We will not give up the fight.
Okay, so I like the conversation because I think I was schooled many, many years ago around how to address people living with disabilities, right? So don't call them disabled and all of that. And I think that thing just stuck um, to my head. But I want to ask a question because something Uti had said earlier around that notion. Because again, even the people that live with certain kinds of disabilities automatically believe that, if I have this kind of disability, automatically these are the things I will do, right? And that's why you have lots of them on the streets, begging and all of that. But if you juxtapose that to people living with disabilities abroad, like I saw a lady with no arms and she was driving a car, right? Like literally you go to different places, you go to a mall, you will see it. If you go there, if they burn you, go and park there, you will get a fine. Because they are like, how people just treat people that, no, these people are actually special. So they have priority for everything. Priority to they put their parking lot very close to the entrance of the mall. They put, there are so many perks that come. Their buses, when you go to those buses, there's a way the bus will go low and put a step so that people on a wheelchair can just wheel themselves into the buses. The amenities are there, right? But when you come down here, I feel like the reason a lot of people that experience maybe some form of disabilities and all of that just kind of like at the back of their mind relegate themselves to just, let me just go and be begging on the street and all of that. It's also because they've not seen an environment that can encourage, them living their regular lives. I mean, you talked about a radio station. I know of a radio station where I'd worked before. It used to be called Radio Continental, but they rebranded the name now. There was a guy that was, if you hear his voice, you have chills down your spine, but he was completely blind. He was visually impaired, but he is a staff of that company and he reads the news, right? Because again, that company also, there's a bit of consciousness to say, okay, you know what? We want to be able to accommodate everybody. So the question is, do you think that if the government took the environment serious to say, okay, you know what? Let's start to be intentional about creating things that shows these people that they are part of us, they are living with us, and they can also, thrive. Maybe the reduction of that thought of going to go and beg on the street and all that, do you think those things can really help to bring down those numbers? Because it is alarming. Like any little disability, to the point that now some people are even faking disability just to be on the roads to beg. Yeah, go.
Okay, so for me, from the point of yes, government have a lot to do. I do always say that fact. But another fact is, I take it off from the angle of the media. How many Hollywood films have you watched that at the end of it all, you find a person with disability just in a cave, someone that is not active? How many of the films, the TV series that talks about disability, that gives a negative vibe about disability? A lot has happened. Nigeria, like I said, the foundation is really shaky when it comes to inclusion. However, there is a lot we as individuals, even if we say government needs to do this, but we also need to also, show the government what we are also made of. The Nollywood industry, right, is not doing very, very, embracingly enough when it comes to disability inclusion. Because, hey, you don't need to go to school at times to understand what some things are, right? You don't need to, and that was why I started off from the word of culture, because the culture of Nigeria is really, really putting our disability out there as negative vibe. So when the culture as, portrayed us as negativity, it's become so bad that even parents of children or relatives of persons with disability are not proud to come out there to say, oh, I have a child who has one form, of disability or not. So yes, the government needs to do more. Yes, fortunately, they signed the bill of over 19 years. They signed it into law in 2019. Yes, after that, they gave a transitioning year for 5 years, organizations to, make sure that the act of the law comes into play. But hey, this is 2024. Where are we with that particular act when it comes to implementation? The National Orientation and Information Agency, what have they done to portray inclusion in terms of putting the marginalized, persons with disability, the youth, the women, the children with disabilities? How far have they gone to educate the community about, inclusion, about letting them to know that, yes, these persons can also go back to school? A lot of persons, I'm fortunate to maybe stay home for 1 year and go for a rehabilitation center. And this was because my mom was crying around the street and someone saw her and said, oh, she can actually go back to school. So imagine someone who doesn't even have access to TV or radio. What are the communication means? Or someone that watches film a lot and yet that is all. The child becomes non-entity. At the end of it, or the child cannot get married. So it's really, we need to change our mindset, and mindset doesn't change just all by maybe sitting down. Media needs to do a lot. Film industry especially, we need to do a lot. Do not, how do I put it now? Make sure that before any film comes out, do not just assume that, oh, when this person has a spinal cord injury, that's all. Or the person will go for a religious house and the pastor will say, oh, rise up, and the person will rise up. No. In fact, you are killing the morale of these categories of individuals. Most persons with disability do not have the zeal to go to physical church anymore because, one, inaccessible infrastructure. Two, the terminologies when a pastor sees someone coming. If the message was on Matthew before, as a person comes in like this, it will become blind Bartholomew. So a lot of things need to change about the way we portray, the way we understand disability inclusion. And it's not just about going to school. Media, I keep emphasizing.
I love everything you're saying. You know what? Let's go on a very short break. I'm sure Uti has a lot of questions. When you said blind Bartimaeus, but you have a good sense of humor. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us now. If you just tuned in, we're having a conversation around how we can empower people living with disabilities in Nigeria, right? And we have with us Kemi Odusanya. She is someone living with visual impairment, right? Now, please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. Our phone line is also open to call us. You can call us on 07025007749. All right, so Uti, let me come to you.
So, in fact, Kemi sort of went ahead of me when she mentioned the act, because based on the data that she shared with us, you've been living with the visual impairment for about 13 years before the act was signed. And we've now come to the end of the 5-year transitionary period. And my first question would be, has anything truly changed? If you juxtapose the 13 years prior and the 5 years after the act was signed, have you seen any real change, first and foremost?
Okay, yeah, seeing real change. Okay, yes, the act brought us the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. The act made other maybe states to sign. We have about 20 states or thereabouts who have domesticated the National Act into their states and all that. So apart from that, maybe information, I'm not too very sure, but if it has changed, it's I don't know, maybe it's in a baby step, but it made other, brand new CSOs or NGOs or OPDs to start, fighting for the rights of persons with disabilities, and people are now more talking about it. And yeah, those are the ones I know of.
Okay. So in that sense, right, I know one of the key things from even the type of line of work that I'm in, one of the key things that stood out to me in the act was the sections that spoke about ensuring that public buildings were accessible to persons with disabilities, indicating things like ramps, and sort of those things, planning, permissions, making sure that buildings need to have ramps, ensuring that existing buildings also were modified. So for yourself, how has there been any improvement in terms of even getting around, interacting with, let me not even say transportation, because that's not under the government in general, but in terms of public buildings, have things changed? Because when we have a day like today, where we're even talking about the lighter things like recreation, what is moving around on your own? Has the act helped that in any way at all?
I think like that I had to breathe, because after the transitioning, stage, the blue rail line, or what they call that thing, that train station, I don't know if they read that act before implementing or having that train stuff. Because most of the things, it gets me so worried. That's why when people say government, 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 right now, me as an individual, I'm actually tired. Because it's a thing to, call an act, is a thing to sign a bill, but what is the implementation stage? Bridges in Lagos, Agege, that train station and all that, it's really like, even you as a person without disability, you can't even, cross that rail. It's dangerous. Talk less of a person with a disability. A lot of bridges are out there. No reconstruction. Should be still this government that say 5 years after. 5 years after, a lot of bridges are not even accessible. Yes, some people think that accessibility is about putting ramps. But those ramps are not even, they can even destroy someone on a wheelchair. Talk less of, so that's why I said the word orientation and information is the first thing, because it's not just about saying you want to put ramps and yes, you are inclusive. No. What about your staffs? Have you oriented them on the terminologies on how to also, cater for persons with disabilities? How many of these health centers have sign language interpreters for deaf persons? We keep having several death cases of hearing impaired persons who, one way or the other, die. And what is the reason? The doctors do not know how to communicate. There is no social workers that can interpret the signs to the doctor. So there are a lot of things to be done. Yes, not that we can't get there, we can't get there, but are we even seeing the steps from the government? And this is why the NGOs are stepping up, in this state. to ensure that maybe they strengthen the government and what have you, but we can actually do more. Government that is saying 5 years after, what have they done after the 5 years? All of the buildings, go to Alausa, Lagos State. Even don't let's open that floor.
Please open it,
It's
open
really,
it.
really something else. Because some in Alausa, how many of the offices? I went to Ministry of Education. Of Education. Was it 2 weeks back? I had to climb flight of steps, and I was imagining if I was with a wheelchair person, would the PAMSEC even agree to come downstairs to receive that person? Is there any accessibility? They say, oh, the lift is not maybe working or what have you. And this is the things we keep hearing. Do we put ourselves as humans first? What about you as a PAMSEC or a commissioner, right? You go blind all of a sudden, or you don't, due to one way or the other, you were involved in a car accident and you lose your spine. That is when you then begin to see them come out to start advocating. What about now? Disabilities are not reward of bad deeds. Some are due to old age, some are due to health complications, and it can happen to anybody. So that's why we say, see yourself as humans first. Let's see ourselves as humans. So whatever applies to you would apply to the nearest persons. So putting a ramp is not because of just that wheelchair person. A pregnant woman can use a ramp as well, not because she's a person with disability, but it's all about adjustment and comfort.
Absolutely. I was just even going to say to you that I do not have a disability, my knee is paining me. So if I have any opportunity to limit, it's true now, to limit the use of my knees, that would just help me move better. Of course it would, because it's a lot of pain I feel when I'm like climbing up the staircase and all of that. But I was going to say that because again, I think it was yesterday that was the recreation day. Let's talk a little bit about, because again, as we talk about empowering people living with disabilities to live, in a very, in a thriving environment, part of what helps would be recreation, would be, what's it called? Things that helps to boost your mental health, that helps to boost wellness, right? And all of that. So, if you say you want to speak to probably maybe like organizations and all of that, what would a good recreational activity or setup look like for people living with certain kinds of disabilities?
When you said this recreation, I remember Disney World. Go to Disney World. It's inclusive, and even persons with disability, for instance, they say, oh, you're a blind person, you need to climb, you need to do this. No, they give certainty or some set of priorities for some categories of impairment. Now, to organizations or to individuals or what have you who want to talk about, do something on recreational centers. Yes, a lot of persons with disability are into sport. They do sport not because, some do it because of the struggle is hard. We have a lot of persons with disabilities who are into sport, but how many of them as Nigerians sponsored outside the countries for Paralympics? So it's number one, accessibility is really key, right? A recreational center should take into consideration accessibility. And when I talk about accessibility, it's not just putting ramps. No, it goes beyond that. It entails signages in terms of persons who are low vision, persons with albinism who might need to walk around, contrast colors, right? Because some people might be seeing with their two koro eyes now, but they are colorblind. But if you paint everywhere white, and the person doesn't know that this is the door outside, this is the door inside, but everywhere is white, the person will just feel he or she is going outside, meanwhile the person is going inside. So there is a need for color contrasting. There is a need for signages, right? Signages that are pictorials for persons who have learning impairment. There is a need for, ramps. And when I mean ramps, it's not just any ramp. Some people even do the worst. Ramps that are so fancy that even you wearing a heel, you can easily slip off. Even on a flat, shoe, you can easily slip off. So it's not just about fanciness. It's about longevity of that
functionality.
thing. And also, yes, and functionality. And also for persons who are, hearing impairment, hearing impaired, there's a need to also have a loop. There's something they call hearing loop, where someone who is hard of hearing, that the person can, hear a little with the hearing aid, whatever someone is saying in the hall, that loop transits it into the hearing aid of that person. And there's also a need to have maybe sign language interpreters or closed captioning, right, in the building, in the recreational centers, and ensure that your facilities, your structures are also I'll put it now. So they are accessible for little persons, dwarf, like we say, little persons, for them to be able to access the counters, access the building. So there are several things. And you see, the simplest way to do this is number one, going through the organizations of persons with disability. It's very simple. Google them. They are all around. Ask. Do your need assessment before thinking or presuming that, oh, this is what you think they need. No. Go through the organizations, ask them what are actually the gaps that they face. How do you think they can be easily included in this particular, program or event or whatever you want to do? And hey, you're about to say, so you need to get to hear what they need. Do not just assume. Don't say because you have gone to USA, this is what is applicable. It should be applicable in Nigeria. No, we have two different continents and two different countries. So, and we are also two different humans. So you need to find out from them what are actually their needs, and how can you help to implement that needs into what you're doing.
Okay, Uti.
So, wow. Kemi has laid down a lot of knowledge for us. I wanted to ask about, I think at some point the concept of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, became a trending topic. And I know that also in the Act also gives, prescribes a minimum, I think 5% that companies and organizations should strive for in terms of employing people with disabilities. I just wanted to get your perspective on that side of things in terms of employment opportunities. I'm privileged to work for an organization that has a robust program, one that we're very proud of. But I just wanted to know, today, there's already high unemployment. The able-bodied are struggling with unemployment. What is the reality for people with disabilities today, for the few that are even at that level where they can seek out employment?
The reality is that a lot of, or some portion of the employment sector do not even understand that persons with disability have the skills. And some do not think that persons with disabilities should be included in the organization. You find some that will even say, oh, okay, let me put you in my payroll, it's fine, don't worry, you don't need to come to work. No. But I tell you that what is realistic is one. If you call out a call for application or recruitment for new staffs, ensure that you put, if you're an equal opportunity organization, put it, and it's not just by saying. Say it, write it. Persons with disabilities are encouraged to apply. Now, I tell you the reason why, because a lot of us has faced discrimination, a lot of us has faced stigmatization, and we are tired. When those words are not, confidentially put in there, it becomes, oh, these people are calling for this now. If I apply, they would not, put me in because of my disability. Some persons have passed through the stage of shortlisting. They're called for physical interview, and the moment they step in, even from the security, let's even say they escape and enter inside, the moment the interviewers see the person, they'll be like, oh, sorry, what did you come for? So the reality is making sure that your workspace is accessible for persons with disability. If the person sails through the interview stage and the person is qualified, please ask them, what do they need? Not all deaf persons, not all blind persons can read Braille. Not all deaf persons understand sign language. So ask them what will make their workspace or their job be easy or comfortable for them. And there is a room for hybrid work mode. They could come 2 times physically, 3 times offline, or, what have you. You could switch it anyhow, but always ask them. And it's not because, oh, they are persons with disabilities, you feel that they should do so, like do ×5, kill them because of that disability, they have to deliver ×5. No, please. If you even forget anything out of this interview, do not forget that they are humans. Humans can make mistakes. Humans can be perfect. Humans can be semi-perfect. Humans can be this. So if you can see them as humans, every other thing, will be easy. If you're also talking to them, refer to them, like speak to them. A deaf person can be talking to you, and has a sign language interpreter, do not say, oh, sorry, can you help me ask her what is her name? No. Speak to the person, make eye contact with the person. If it's a blind person, you don't necessarily need to shout. They are humans, they can hear you. It's only eyes that is gone. Every other senses are complementing the loss of the, other function of the body that is lost. So employers, organization, recruitment agencies, please do not be scared of empowering these people. We have beautiful, talented persons amongst persons with disability who can deliver even times 5 of non-persons with disabilities. So please do not be scared.
I mean, Kemi, I really love what you've just said about the being intentional about, putting it as a clause within the employment, what's it called, post or whatever that you put out there.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to ask you, because we're fast running out of time, right? How do you work as you said you're a content manager, a content creator, right? Because you would think, because it's important for you to explain and share your experience. Why? Because you see, sometimes I feel like before these issues around people living with disabilities even get to where people are the ones discriminating them, they themselves, right, have also just gotten to that point. I mean, you said it that you had to go through 1 year of therapy, right, to get you out of that mind space, right? I mean, you said you're doing content creation. I've been wrapping my head around. I mean, there are people within the organization here that, they are typing. I have to correct and edit and all of that. And now here is someone that is visually impaired, that is a content creator, content manager, a social media manager. How are you able to do those kinds of things? And what is your current job role? What do you do currently?
Okay, so so I was where I had my NYSC. I was helping them to manage their social media. Then it was Twitter actually. So, but right now I work as a development partner staff. I work as an advocacy and communication officer, and I also, advocate for the right of women, especially with disability as well. And I'm also a disability auditor. So you asked how do I get around my tax and all that? Yes, as a visually impaired person, I might not be saying, but hey, technology has made it very beautiful. We have this speech softwares, either on your phone or laptop or what have you. So whatever I type, it says it back. If I'm pressing A on my laptop, as I'm even joining right now, I'm on this interview on my laptop, and I'm also even doing WhatsApp at the same time on the same laptop. So it makes it very easy because it speaks back whatever I'm doing. So it's a speech software called JAWS, JAWS, Job Access with Speech, and it makes me to do my work effectively, and that is just all I need, right? So, and it's because I've been able to, one, accept my disability. I've been able to understand what adjustable means. It's going to make me to effectively participate, and that's why I'm able to do all these things. When there is acceptance, every other thing is very easy.
Fantastic. Uti, do you have final words?
No, I mean, I'm just so like I said, you when you encounter a person with disabilities, I want to say sad to say, right? You don't meet a person, or sometimes you do, you meet a person and you're in awe of their accomplishments. But when you meet a person with disabilities, you're even more in awe because you're like, this is someone really taking life by the horns and not accepting to be relegated. So, I mean, thank you for sharing knowledge with us and imparting today. The final thoughts for me really was, if you were addressing today a young person like you who, has found out that they have some sort of disability, whether it's now something that has developed or it's accidental, what would be the first things you would want that person to know, to hold on to know that the journey is beginning and life is not ending?
This is my very beautiful part. I would say to you out there, either as a person who has just acquired a disability or as a parent, remember that one thing in the word of Greg Kincaid, no matter how much falls on us, we keep plowing ahead. And that is just the way to keep the roads clear, right? You are a person with disability at this stage. You are a parent with disability at this stage. That does not end the world. You are not the first, neither will you be the last. So all you need to do is, one, accept and look for networks of these like-minded people, and do what? Ensure that you look for a way to make your life much better. You're not the first, you're not the last. So you can definitely do what? You can definitely do it.
Thank you so much. And that's a very beautiful way, to wrap the conversation. We've been speaking with Kemi Odusanya. She is a powerful Nigerian. And she's an advocate for people living with disabilities in Nigeria. And as you can clearly tell, she knows her onions. So it was important for us. Again, we don't normally do this often. But again, speaking to what you said about how the media is also complacent, right, with some of the challenges that the people living with disabilities face. It was also important for us to have this conversation. It's not your regular kind of conversation. People just gloss over those kinds of things, but we are also very conscious. We are also following the show with some level of intentionality. It is not it's not a popular conversation to have, but it's an important conversation to have. And thank you so much for making our time. So it is comfortable. It's comfortable to say that you are now a friend of the house. So we will always come knocking on your door. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kemi. We had a fantastic conversation. Thank you, Uti, for making me not do this alone all by myself. Even though I'm alone in the studio. We will survive these Lagos floods. We will survive it.
We shall overcome. Yeah.
We will overcome.
But I hear the rains. Set of rains is 3 days, so Wednesday to Friday. I think there's a bit of information that is going about, so everybody be careful. Remember, I think we need to find that video that we played, I think earlier in the year or last year, about flooding and how to move around cars in flooding. The water can pick a car very easily, even if there are occupants inside. So everybody, please be careful. Don't wade into the water. Watch out for electrical and power lines. Just stay safe, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Uti, for sensitizing our people in 2 seconds. All right, before we go, ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channels at Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further, drop your comments. Most importantly, engage our posts on social media, like, share, invite families and friends to also watch and follow the conversation. If you missed our quote for today, here it is again. Inclusion is not bringing people into what already exists. It's making a new space, a better space for everyone. That is what inclusion is about. Hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen.